There are 26 members of the Parliamentary Support Group for Julian Assange, but the government and opposition have used an arcane set of rules to prevent those members of Parliament from speaking up for Julian Assange. What sort of government and what sort of opposition refuses to allow the voice of that famous and most revered Australian anywhere in the world to be heard in our Parliament? It's long past time that Australians everywhere rose up to hold to account those members of Parliament who have not allowed Julian Assange's voice to be heard there. Each Australian who shares my disgust at Britain's, Sweden's and America's treatment of Julian Assange must ask of his or her local member of Parliament, are you prepared to act to make our government take action to end the illegal imprisonment and torture of Julian Assange? Should that member of Parliament be willing to actively support Julian Assange, ask that member to act urgently with other members who support Julian Assange to force the government to allow debate on Julian Assange sometime in this last sitting of Parliament for 2021. However, should that member of Parliament not be fully aware of the facts about Julian Assange, then please take the time to explain those facts to him or to her. Should that member of Parliament then not be as outraged as you and not moved to immediately act on the floor of Parliament, then tell that member of Parliament that you don't think that he or she is fit to represent you in Parliament. Julian Assange is founder of the WikiLeaks news service, and through the WikiLeaks news service he is winner of many awards for journalism, 21 by my count. These awards include the Walkley Award for Most Outstanding Contribution to Journalism and the Sydney Peace Prize. 2010 readers of both Time magazine and Le Monde voted Julian Assange as Person of the Year. Julian Assange has not been charged with or convicted of any crime. Yet, on the 19th of June till the 11th of April 2019, when British police arrested him, he had been forced to stay without sunlight in the very confined spaces of the London Ecuadorian Embassy. Julian Assange had sought asylum in the Ecuadorian Embassy from an attempt by Sweden to have him extradited to answer fabricated charges of sexual assault, all of which have since been dropped. Those allegations of sexual assault were clearly intended by the Swedish government to facilitate the extradition of Julian Assange to the United States once he had landed on Swedish soil. On 5th of February 2016, this indictment to avoid that extradition was ruled as arbitrary detainment and therefore illegal by Nils Melzer. Nils Melzer is the United Nations Special Rapporteur on torture and other cruel, inhuman or degrading treatment or punishment. 2017, according to 30 former US intelligence employees, then Secretary of State Mike Pompeo discussed plans to kill Julian Assange with gun battles on the streets of London, or even by using a helicopter at Heathrow Airport to shoot out the tyres of a commercial aircraft with Julian Assange on board. These are truly bizarre and frightening allegations, but have not been denied by Mike Pompeo. As no indictment against Julian Assange had even been issued, these plans to either kill Julian Assange or else recklessly endanger the lives of other airline passengers as well as Julian Assange were clearly criminal and should be the cause for Mike Pompeo's immediate arrest. Documentary evidence seems to show that the Australian government was made aware of Mike Pompeo's intentions at the time, although the government denies this. Since his arrest in April 2019, more than 2.5 years ago, Julian Assange has been locked away in Belmarsh Prison in solitary confinement for 23 hours a day. So how is it that someone who is guilty of no crime is locked away in circumstances which could lead to irreparable damage to his health or even to his death? And how is it that not once since his arrest in April 2019, nor once in the more than 9 years since Julian Assange first sought asylum in the Ecuadorian embassy, has the Australian government acted to uphold Assange's legal rights to end that imprisonment and to end the attempts by the United States to extradite him. How is it that the Australian government failed to act even after they were apparently made aware of Mike Pompeo's plans to kill Julian Assange in 2017? If the Australian government had decided at any point of time since June 2012 to demand that Britain release Julian Assange, most likely this would have occurred. Were Britain not to have immediately acceded to that demand, Australia could then have taken the case to either the International Criminal Court or to the United Nations. Both Britain and the United States would have found that in the face of international law, British law, and the United States' own laws and global public opinion, that neither would have had a leg to stand on. They would have found that they had no choice but to immediately grant Julian Assange his freedom. However, the Australian government has clearly failed to act in this very basic duty of care towards Julian Assange. More recent evidence has revealed that not only has the Australian government failed in its duty of care, but is actively colluded with the United States, Britain and Sweden against Julian Assange. Despite this shocking situation, a proper discussion of any of this has yet to be allowed on the floors of our Australian Parliament. So far, discussion has been limited to just over 2 minutes on 3 occasions in question time, or around a minute to table a petition in support of Julian Assange. This is just not good enough when the life of Julian Assange, as well as our own basic rights to freedom of speech and to be informed, are under threat. In fact, there have been a number of unsuccessful attempts to raise the issue of Julian Assange in Parliament. Previously, I had thought that in our parliamentary democracy, only a mover and a seconder were required to raise a motion. In fact, a foreshadowed private member's motion, that is, a motion that is supported neither by the government nor the opposition, as is the case with Julian Hill's motion, first foreshadowed on the 16th of June 5 months ago, that motion must first go through an arcane set of procedures before it can be put. The foreshadowed private member's motion first has to be approved by the Parliamentary Selection Committee on a Wednesday. Only if the private member's motion is approved by the Selection Committee can it then be put to Parliament for debate, but only during the 90 minutes prior to midday the following Monday, if that Monday is not a public holiday. By my calculation, this allows all of 13 minutes on average for each private member's motion to be put, debated and then voted upon. Even this has not been allowed for Julian Hill's motion, which still has not been approved of by this shadowy Parliamentary Selection Committee. I don't consider that good enough for what purports to be a representative democracy. Why can't those 26 members of Parliament who support Julian Assange put to Parliament their case for Julian Assange? Why can't those members demand of Prime Minister Scott Morrison and Foreign Minister Marise Payne a full explanation for their appalling conduct towards Julian Assange?